Cheers, everyone. Dave Brown here with the New Populist. Thank you again for joining me. I want to talk today about what is happening in Niger. It has been about 2 weeks since the coup on July 26th, where the democratically elected leader was removed and put on house arrest by the military. And this coup, despite being in a relatively poor country in Africa, has garnered a lot of attention internationally. And there are talks about neighboring African countries potentially intervening militarily, perhaps France, perhaps the United States, although I don't think the United States would intervene directly. But again, a lot of attention. And this is because Africa is increasingly becoming a battleground between Western Europe and the United States and Russia and China, who are all competing for influence in Africa because Africa has tons of natural resources that these vast economies want. Now, historically, as we all know, Africa has been colonized by the West. And a lot of African leaders today are saying enough is enough and they want the Western presence to be removed. And we are afraid that if we leave Africa, then Russia and China swoop in, gain influence, and increase their power in the world. And you know things are bad when we, the United States, send in the Grim Reaper to deal with the situation. And that is what happened. My favorite person, Victoria Nuland, went to Africa, went to Niger, and she met with the coup leaders. And she said herself that they were quite firm about how they want to proceed, and it is not to support in support of the Constitution of Niger. She characterized the conversation as extremely frank and at times quite difficult. So Victoria Nuland going to Niger to lecture them about their fidelity to the Constitution of Niger, which is very rich. I love when the United States goes to other countries and lectures them. When we ourselves, we just do what we want. Our Constitution, who cares? Our leaders don't care about our Constitution either. Now, what I find funny about this whole situation is the fact that we in the West, we have these bullet points from the media for why this coup happened. Yet, all we have to do is look and we can find the reason given by the people who were involved in the coup themselves. Now, it did take a little effort. It wasn't that easy to find. But eventually, I was able to find a 10-minute clip of the coup leader, and his name is, I'm going to butcher this, Abdurrahmane Tiani. He gave a speech on TV explaining why the coup happened. And what surprised me was that he wasn't really concerned with international interference, the United States or other countries. 90% of the focus was on the issue of security within Niger, which has been battling terrorism, Boko Haram, for the last several years. That was his main issue, and he said that they had done everything they could to give this president time to fight terrorism, but that he failed, and eventually they reached a point where they thought that they would have to step in and do something about it to protect the people of Niger. So that is what they said. Of course, again, that's their side of it. Is that true? Maybe part of it's true. Who knows? But I always find it interesting when you actually go to the source to hear what they have to say rather than listen to the international media tell you what they were doing. Now, there was one clip in particular that I want to play for you because I thought was interesting. And this speech or this presentation was in French, and I had to go by YouTube translator. So I'm going to speak over the video here because it's in French, and I apologize if the translation is not 100% correct. But what he says is I found particularly interesting, and this is concerning the way they handled terrorists in Niger. Here's the clip. We must ask ourselves about the meaning and scope of a security policy which consists in proceeding with the extrajudicial release of several leader terrorists. So, according to him, the coup leader, there was several terrorists released by the president, which made the situation in that country worse. So I said, what exactly is he talking about? Well, apparently, back in February 2022, Niger Republic frees Boko Haram members, terrorist chiefs for peace. The article goes on to say, Niger has freed terrorist chiefs from jail, including members of Boko Haram, as part of reconciliation efforts in the West African nation, officials and state media said Saturday. President Mohamed Bazoum made the announcement on Friday evening during a meeting on the security situation attended by military and government officials and traditional leaders, state television reported. I have identified 9 terrorist chiefs. I was advised to free the prisoners, whom I then received at the presidential palace because I am seeking peace, Bazoum was quoted as saying. So 9 terrorist chiefs were released by Bazoum, and then they were received at the presidential palace. So this is what the coup leader was referring to as being one of the reasons why he had lost confidence in the president's ability to fight terrorists. Now, what I find interesting too is that in the neighboring country of Burkina Faso, something similar happened there. They had a coup back in January 2022, and then they had this interim government. But it says here, and this is from Wikipedia, the coup was initially welcomed by many in Burkina Faso as the previous government had become deeply unpopular due to its failure to deal with insurgency. However, the new regime was also unable to defeat the rebels and instead lost even more territory to jihadists and other militants. So Burkina Faso had the same problem where they had the coup because they were struggling against these military insurgents. And then they brought the new government in, and that government failed to do anything about it. And so they actually had a second coup later. And that interim government, they also tried something similar to what happened in Niger. April 2022, Burkina Faso will provide support to local communities engaged in reconciliation talks with jihadists and offer livelihood opportunities for militants willing to disarm, a government official told the new humanitarian amid growing calls for non-military approaches to a conflict that has displaced nearly 2 million people. So 2 countries, Burkina Faso, Niger, 2022, these programs where they try reconciliation with terrorists, with jihadists, that apparently seemed to fail. Now, I dug deeper and I found an article from The Guardian, the UK, from, it is, March of this year, 2023. I found it very interesting. Here's what it said. Niger's cycle of deadly violence raises questions over U.S. counter-terror role. The Western security assistance was regarded as a success, but some analysts suggest it is making matters worse. This counterterrorism assistance has, however, failed to stem skyrocketing jihadist violence. Even the Pentagon admitted this is in its little noticed analysis. At a minimum, more U.S. security assistance isn't leading to more security, and all signs suggest it plays a role in making matters worse. While correlation isn't necessarily causation, any rational observer would ask the question, what role is U.S. security assistance really playing here? Niger is supposed to be the success story for U.S. counterterrorism partnership in the region. If these are the wins, what do the losses look like? So the U.S. has, I think, about 1,500 soldiers in Niger. We have a base there. And, we increased our presence there over the last several years. And according to this Guardian article, according to the statistics, violence there has actually gotten worse, not better. So what exactly are we doing over there? And are we making the situation better? And clearly, according to the coup leaders in Niger, things are getting worse so bad that they decided to oust the president and take over. So I'm not saying this in support of anything. I just find these facts to be interesting, and it gives you a perspective coming from them as for why they did what they did. They are fighting violence, terrorists, Boko Haram, and it seems, and I guess the stats would back it up, that the president in charge pardoned terrorists, met them at the palace, released them at a time when violence was getting much, much worse. And then in Burkina Faso and in Niger, the military stepped in and said that we're taking back control because we're going in the wrong direction. So, very complicated situation in Niger. A lot of things at play: a Western interest, Russia and China's interest, terrorism, military bases. There's U.S. military bases all over Africa. France has a military base in Niger, and I know this. Germany does too. The German chancellor was visiting there. I think that's this last year in Niger, visiting the base there. So a lot of Western military in Africa, supposedly to help in the counter terrorism effort. Yet the presence of us there seems to make things worse. And so I'm not a Mr. Conspiracy guy, but it does make you wonder what we're actually trying to do there. And it's well known that we have a history of actually working to destabilize countries, because when they're destabilized, they can't unite together and be effective in pushing back against U.S. power. So I'm not saying it's happening there, and in fact, the coup leader isn't even necessarily saying that. But I do wonder, because we are pretty wily in our ways when dealing with developing countries with resources that we want to exploit, and we will do a lot of backhanded things that our public here in the United States is generally unaware of. So we will see where this coup situation goes, because again, it has a lot of attention, and it has a potential to boil over into something bigger if a military reaction does happen, where Nigeria or other countries come in and try to restore the previous president to power, and that could be a bad situation that we don't want to see. And my general position as an American is, this seems like an internal issue for the people in Nigeria to handle. I don't think we should be involved in it. I think we should be on the sidelines, let them work this out. We don't have to stick our beak in everything that happens across the world. Other countries can work their things out. We work our own things out. China can work their issues out. Russia, Ukraine, whoever. Let these people in Africa decide their own fate, their own path, and perhaps we could just sit on the sidelines and provide real assistance that doesn't come with strings attached, that is genuinely trying to help people, not just play games and manipulate. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here. It'll be very interesting moving forward. Well, that's it for now. If you are new to my channel, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.